Hey there, welcome to Abundant Source. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about salt on a fruitarian diet. I am recently trying to get over my own salt addiction. I have just been eating too much salt consistently and have really been feeling it, and just said that I really need to stop and got serious. So I gave myself a 30-day no salt challenge, and I'm finishing up day 3 today. And it really hit me a few days ago. I ate 2 days in a row. I had the first day, I ate around a cup of salted cashews, which is like probably the worst nut that you could eat on a raw food diet, in my opinion. And then the next day I ate about a cup of salted pistachios, and I felt so horrible after those 2 days, and it was so crazy to see how much mucus was coming out of me just from what seemed like a little bit of nuts and some salt, which to any average person would probably be considered a very healthful thing and an improvement in their diet. And then to just see how when you are clean and you are, and your body is so responsive to everything that you put in it, and so sensitive to, what it's naturally supposed to have in it, just to witness how much, defense and the whole process that starts to unfold whenever you put things, even though they don't seem that bad, and that aren't supposed to be there. And so even today, this was like 5 days ago that I ate these, and even today I'm just like now clearing, it seems like, everything out. I just was so full of mucus, blowing my nose like crazy, coughing up phlegm for like 5 days straight after eating this, and it felt ridiculous. Like, how is it possible that it created this much mucus in me? And so I really want to be over salt. I don't believe that it's something that sodium in natural food, I believe, is all the, sodium we need. Salt is just, it's processed, it's extracted unnaturally, and it's not something that we would ever have in nature to just like douse our food in. It's something that comes, in very small quantities in natural food provided by nature. And it's also been fun to just realize how tasteless so much stuff is that we eat every day without salt. Like a lot, usually when I eat an avocado, I'll put some salt on it, and I might also make some other like mix of herbs and things like that to put in, or maybe like a little pico de gallo kind of mixture with different herbs and things. And I try it without the salt, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of tasteless. This is really bland, and I wouldn't eat this. And then I add the salt, and it's like, oh, this is amazing. I could eat this all day. And it's just really funny to see how without salt, the appeal for so many things just instantly has no appeal anymore. And then you add salt, and it's just like crazy, like explosion of flavor, and it's very addictive and very unnaturally stimulating to have that excess salt put on foods that have more than what it already naturally contains. Our bodies retain and recycle salt super efficiently. We really don't need like anything more than what we get from fruits and leafy green vegetables. And some people think that, there's certain minerals that make salt like in with the salt. Like maybe you get the Himalayan pink salt, or these other Celtic sea salts and things that have the added minerals, or just the minerals that are naturally found, and the sources that they get them from, like the water supply or whatever. the mines and things where the salts are coming from, maybe you'll get some more minerals in there, but it's not like you can't get these minerals from the natural foods, from the fruits and the veggies as well. It's not like these minerals that are found in these different salts only can be found in these salts. And they're also in a less bioavailable form. They're in their really solid, rigid rock form, which our bodies can't really digest, not very much of. And the most bioavailable form that you can get it in is after it's been processed by, the trees, the vegetation, and soaked the minerals into them, and then made it into a bioavailable form for human beings. We're really meant to get all our nutrients, all of our water supply, everything that we need from the filtered and perfectly digestible forms and assimilatable forms that the plants provide for us. It's super dehydrating, and anybody who eats salt should know this, but people want to argue that salt, retains water, which is true. It retains water because it's causing inflammation and tension in certain areas of the body. And so because now you created inflammation, because the salt does a lot of things, it restricts blood flow, it screws with our nervous system, and it heightens our blood pressure, and really, closes up the arteries, and it restricts a lot of blood flow, and it's just toxic. It's acidic, and it's going to create inflammation in your body. So when there's inflammation in the body created, now it must protect the other cells from being burned by the inflammation, so it retains water in that area, say, your shoulder or your face. If you haven't gone for a while eating salt and then you eat a bunch of salt, I'm sure a lot of us have experienced this. Next morning, we've got super poofy cheeks, and we're our body is really just poofy under our eyes and our cheeks and everything, because there is water retention there, because it's trying to combat the acidity that we've created in these areas of our body. And I would say that you never really want to have retained water in any one place in your body that's not really doing anything, other than combating the acidity. That's not like water that's hydrating you. You don't ever want to have stagnant water sitting in one place in your body. I want the water that's in me to be flowing, free flowing everywhere throughout my body, carrying nutrients through the blood, sending proper signals through my nervous system. I don't want to retain water in any part of my body. To me, that is a indication that, there's an imbalance there, that it would just have to sit there. And with the heightened blood pressure and the restriction in the arteries, it's also going to reduce the blood flow to our brain, which gives us that cloudy brain feeling, that foggy brain, and will give you headaches and totally make you feel dehydrated. And another thing is that for the human body, potassium and sodium are supposed to go kind of hand in hand, and the proper ratio for potassium to sodium intake is always supposed to be around, 1 part sodium to 3 or 5 parts potassium. And so when we're eating foods and adding salt, we're really screwing with that sodium potassium ratio, and that ratio really helps to keep our bodies functioning properly and sending the right signals to everything. And when you are messing with that balance, then it's just going to be inefficient for the body, and the body's going to not really know exactly what to do with this, and it's going to cause a lot of confusion and distortion throughout our body. Another thing is our bacteria. You know, we are a frugivorous species that coexist with bacteria that, or have evolved with bacteria that have supported our bodies, and the bacteria that support the human body are ones that feed off of the human's natural diet, which is a low-fat, frugivorous diet. And so when we eat foods in our natural, species-specific diet, such as water-rich fruit, fresh fruit, and maybe some tender leafy greens, then that's going to really give us the bacteria that we are designed to sort of hold within us and without us. But when you start adding things like high fat and salt and, excess sugar, and excess protein and spices and things that are undigestible in the human body or very hard to digest, then you are going to attract new bacteria that feed off of those new substances, basically, that you've introduced to your body, and they're here to break those down. They feed off of it, and now you're basically cultivating an unnatural microbiome in the human body that you are walking around in, and it's going to, feel kind of wacky. One of the biggest contributors to our vitamin intake is really bacteria that are eating the foods that we're ingesting and then turning it into a readily absorbable form of vitamins and nutrients for us. And so when we are attracting these other bacteria, they can create other things like acidic waste and things that just are not really meant to sit in the human body. And a lot of us know now that the body is more made up of bacteria and houses more bacteria than it does actual human cells. I kind of think of the human body as just like this walking animated home for bacteria. They are the dominant, living specimen making up the human body. And we're just kind of like this big husk for them to live in. And we support each other. They provide us with what we need, and we provide them with what they need as according to nature's law. And what we're doing is kind of messing with nature's law and consuming things that we were never really meant to consume. And now we're housing bacteria that just were not really supposed to be in us. And that can definitely lead to a lot of health issues. And while I've been on this salt craving addiction journey, I just, I always come back to the realization, like the one that just hits me every time is hydration and alkalinity. And I don't know how I seem to just forget these two things, because for me they just seem like the most important thing when I'm thinking of my physical health and physical body, is that we need alkaline foods and we need water-rich foods. And so a lot of us are eating nuts and seeds thinking that that's not so bad and they're filled with nutrients, and a lot of fruitarians eat nuts and seeds. And for one, I've realized that the nuts and seeds really hardly appeal to me unless I add a bunch of salt to them. And the other thing is that for one, they're dehydrating. They have pretty much no hydration. Even if you soak them and all that, still going to have very little hydration, and they will dehydrate you. And not only that, but they are also an acidic food, which is going to cause acidity and inflammation and all that, and all the same stuff that salt does, basically. And I just think it's so important to keep in mind that when you're eating food, it should always be water rich, at least in my opinion, 70% water, because that's what the human body is supposed to be made up of, even though most people probably sit more around like 50% water because everyone is so chronically dehydrated. But the human body is supposed to naturally be at around 70% flowing water. And so that's what I like to keep in mind when I'm picking out my food is, is this mostly water? And then also, like, is this alkalizing or acidifying? And it's so simple. Is this going to cause acidity in my body, or is this going to be alkalizing for my body? And really, the only two foods that I really know of that are alkalizing are fruits and vegetables. There's pretty much no other food on the planet. I've heard that some nuts and seeds can be alkalizing to the body, but I haven't done enough research, and I still don't know why that matters when, it's still high fat, hard to digest, and doesn't make you feel very good, dehydrating and all that. And being an alkaline-based animal, human beings, we need an alkalizing diet. And you're pretty much only going to get that from fruits, which in my opinion are the best, the most hydrating, the most vitamin-rich, most easily digestible, most appealing, greatest tasting, smelling, best feeling ever when you eat it. And then, my other suggestion would be tender leafy greens like spinach, bok choy, or romaine lettuce or something like that. If you feel like it, like sometimes I do really feel like when I look at some spinach, I'm like, oh, that looks kind of good. And then I'll eat some and it feels okay. And then I'm pretty much done with it for a while. And so, on occasion I'll do that, and I suggest the same thing. If you feel like it's appealing, then go for it. But typically, what's going to be most appealing is just the sweet, juicy fruit. And people's taste buds today are really so, distorted because of the excess stimulating taste that we're adding to our foods, and a lot of that is salt. The average person is eating over twice the daily recommended intake of salt, and even the daily recommendation, I believe, is freaking way too high for a thriving human being. And people don't realize how much sodium is in the food that they eat every day. If you're going out to a restaurant, there's going to be tons of salt. If you're eating pretty much anything packaged and processed, there's pretty much always going to be tons of salt in it. A big reason for all the salt is to preserve the food so it has greater shelf life, so that way it can sit on the shelf for years without going bad. And that's just a red flag right there. I mean, if something can sit on the shelf for that long and not go bad, that just really kind of scares me. But anyways, all the herbs and the spices and the salts and all the extra stuff that we add to our food to make it more appealing to us, even when we wouldn't eat it in its natural state, because in its natural state it's bland as heck, and we just want to feel like we can consume everything, I guess. I can consume this if I cook it for an hour and put some salt on it, then yeah, you can pretty much eat anything. What I'm trying to get here is it's basically overstimulating your palate and reducing your ability to taste the most intricate and subtle tastes from your food. And that's something that I've noticed hugely when I started eating all fruit and a lot more mono meals, is I could just taste everything. And then when I just was tasting things I could never taste before. And then when I'd go back to either, complicated raw vegan foods, or even maybe some cooked food, it would be oh my God, I wasn't tasting like I normally would. where everything just seemed like this one big combination. It was like this one flavor from all these different things. It was like everything was separated. Every single taste, every single ingredient that I was eating in this complicated food structure was like separated. I can taste the salt so clearly, and I can taste like this flavor so clearly, and this flavor, and everything seemed separated, and like as if I had taken every ingredient out of the, combined form of whatever I was eating and just ate the ingredients separately. It was such a refined taste experience because my palate was just so sensitive to taste again. And so when we're overloading our taste with all of these hyper, stimulating things, we're basically losing our ability to taste the subtle things and the natural pleasures of Mother Nature's natural food. So I think that's going to be it for this video. I enjoyed talking about it. The little journey through my salt addiction has been fun, maybe still not over. I feel as like I've realized a lot of things and remembered a lot of things, and felt good to have these lessons kind of put right in front of my face again. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk with you again soon. Thank you so much.